Welcome to this episode of Color Outside the Lines. Today, we're going to talk about something that was brought up to me by a client of mine. And it was about this idea of the desire for more. And the question was, is it wrong or is it weird to want more? What a great question, right? Have you ever had that question for yourself? Have you ever asked yourself, is it weird for me to want more? Like, why do I want more, but it seems like everyone around me doesn't want more, right? And this could be more anything, right? This could be more health. This could be more love in your life. This could be more adventure, more money, more anything. But it's this feeling and this realization that what you have right now is enough for this moment, but there could be more to life. There could be more to life than going to a job every single day that you hate only to enjoy the weekends, or being in a relationship where the love was gone a long time ago, but you still feel like you have to stay, right? Or being in a religion where you know the love of God, but you don't see it acted out in the people that you are going to church with every single day. Things like that, right? It's this feeling and this knowing. It's almost an inner knowing that there has to be something more to life than what it is that we are currently experiencing. And if you're here, I have a feeling that you felt this way quite a lot because this is the epitome of wanting to color outside the lines, right? It's looking at the lines that are on the paper and thinking to yourself, those lines are pretty good, right? Like that picture is really nice. But I wonder what it would be like if we added this, or I wonder what it would be like if we painted those trees pink instead of green. Or I wonder what it would be like if I just scribbled all over that page instead of trying to stay in the lines. It's wanting to explore more, wanting to find out what else is out there outside of the lines that are on the paper, right? What if we started with a blank piece of paper and we just did whatever it was we felt like? What would happen then? And what's really interesting is that whenever you start to go down this path, whenever you start to get this feeling, it's definitely a nudging from a higher power. It's definitely something that you should follow. But we are often told by our society, and we are encouraged, if you will, by our society to not listen to that, right? They look at that piece of paper and they think, "Man, that's a really great piece of paper. Why? Why would you want to color outside the lines? Why would you want a different piece of paper? Why would you want to see if you could get a whole coloring book? That doesn't make sense when you've got a perfectly good piece of paper right there." And this may have sounded like things like, "Well, you're making a lot of money at that job, so why would you want to quit and start your own business? You're doing just fine. You should be thankful for what you have," right? Or maybe you're just not trying hard enough in your marriage and maybe you guys should try harder and that's the problem. It's not that the marriage is not working anymore. It's that you guys aren't trying hard enough. Or maybe it's um that, well, this is the only truth. This is the only truth that exists, right? This is the only thing. There's only one truth and this is the only truth. And you shouldn't go outside of that truth because if you go outside of that truth, you could get hurt. And a lot of people take it to the point of you could get hurt and die, right? Or even worse, you could get hurt and go to hell. You could get hurt and have eternal damnation. That's a pretty big one, right? And so we often get stuck inside the lines. We get stuck inside these pictures that maybe we don't even really want to color because we're so afraid based on what everyone else is doing and what society has told us. We're so afraid to color outside the lines because what could happen? And so today I want to talk to you about a different way to view this, a different vantage point that we could look at this feeling of wanting to color outside the lines. So what if this feeling to color outside the lines, this feeling of wanting to explore, wanting to see if there's more out there is actually the next step in your expansion. And so we as humans are spiritual beings. And if you study anything about spirit, about God, about higher powers in any religion, any spiritual practice, you know that spirit wants to expand. Spirit wants to get bigger and be in more places and affect more people and experience more things. And so, what if that desire, that nudge that we have to be truly happy, that nudge that we have to start a business that lights our soul on fire, that nudge that we have to like sell everything we have and travel full time? What if that is the next level of our soul's expansion? We've never really talked about this on here before, but I hold a belief that business is a spiritual practice. And one of the biggest things that happens whenever you start your own business is your spiritual being expands because business is the biggest gateway to personal development. And as we develop our person, we are developing our entire being and we are becoming the highest version of ourselves. And what better goal in life than to be the highest version of yourself? So, why does it feel so weird? Why does it feel like we're doing the wrong thing? And why doesn't everyone want it? So, there's a couple of reasons why this could be. Okay. One of them is everybody's on their own journey, right? Everybody is figuring out their own path in their own time, and they may not be ready for that level of expansion at this point. The other thing could be that they do feel it too, but they are at a place in their journey that they don't feel confident enough to follow it, right? They don't feel they haven't done enough healing, they haven't done enough inner work to feel like they can follow that nudge that they have. So ultimately, it's not really about what they're doing, what other people are doing, what other people think. It's about that feeling, that knowing, that intuition that you have inside of you that tells you this is the next step for you. This is the next thing that you should follow in order to expand yourself as a person and fulfill your life's purpose, which is a bigger topic we can get into as well. The goal here is not to figure out what everybody else is doing and figure out where everyone else is on their path, but it's to figure out what your path is and what is it that you are meant to do and what are the gifts that you are meant to share with the world and in what timing. And other people may not be ready to receive it yet. But that doesn't mean that it's not your time to share it because there are going to be people that you don't even know yet or you don't expect yet that are going to be able to receive your gift and receive it in a really big way. And it's necessary for them on their path. So, in other words, when one of us expands, we all expand. So when one of us starts to move towards that inner nudging of like, this is what could happen in my life, this is what I could experience in my life, then we all experience expansion because we are all one and we all experience expansion and it raises the consciousness of humanity. So it's not just that you have this desire for happiness or joy or money or whatever in your life. It's that that desire was given to you for a reason. We've talked about this on a previous episode. It was given to you for a reason. And that reason is to expand and raise the consciousness of all humanity. Do you get to benefit in the process? Sure. Why not? And so that's the next thing I want to talk about is where did you get the belief that life has to be hard? I hear this so often. Phrases that we hear all the time, right? Like, well, this is just how life is. It's just hard to be an adult. It's just hard to be a human. The world is just falling apart. This is just the way things are, right? This is just the way things are. And so then when you start to question and you start to ask yourself, like, well, is that the way things have to be? Do things have to be this way? then it can feel really weird, right? Because it can feel like, well, everybody tells me that this is just the way things are. Maybe I should just accept it. Maybe I shouldn't try for something more. And a lot of times when you start down your journey of trying for something more, it can be really wobbly and really wonky, right? Because you are literally deconditioning old programming, as we've talked about. You're deconditioning all of this old programming, all of this old way of thinking, and you are moving towards a new way of thinking, a new paradigm that you've never experienced before. You've never lived that way before. You've never had that experience in your life before. And so it can feel really wobbly and wonky and weird, and it can feel scary sometimes. And you're going to have a lot of old stuff come up that says, like, you can't do this, right? You shouldn't be here, like that kind of thing, right? And that's where we get that feeling of imposter syndrome, of this feeling of like, who do I think I am? And this is ultimately what it comes down to, right? Like, who do I think I am to be happy? Who do I think I am to have joy in my life? Who do I think I am to have love in my life? Who do I think I am to have everything I've ever desired? And I would challenge you to ask yourself that question. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are that you should get to have everything you've ever wanted in life? Spend some time journaling on that. Spend some time really thinking through, who do I think I am? And why do I think I deserve this? Why do I think I deserve to have more? But as you're doing that, I want you to remember that your more is everyone's more. It's not just your more. When you experience more, everyone experiences more. With my little asterisk caveat, right? That you are doing what you're doing for the highest good of all, for your highest good and the highest good of all. Okay. So we're assuming here everyone listening to this podcast has the best intentions at heart. And that when you see something, when you desire more, what you're thinking to yourself is, there has to be more in this life. There has to be more joy. There has to be more happiness because I've experienced a little bit before. So why can't I experience happiness all the time? Why can't I experience joy all the time, or most of the time, or much of the time, right? Why can't I have that the majority of the time in my life? And the answer is you can, but you have to trust that it's okay for you to be happy, and it's okay for you to be joyful, and it's okay for life to not be hard. And that there is a possible reality that exists, that life is full of joy, full of happiness, full of abundance, and not hard most of the time. But when you're looking around you and you see this world where everyone is saying life is so hard, life is so hard, life is so hard, it can feel like you're living in sort of a fantasy, right? You're making things up. And in reality, you're not making things up. You are moving more towards the truth, and the truth of who we are as human beings. Because the truth is, happiness and joy and abundance are our birthrights as human beings. It's what was meant for us in the beginning. When we were created, whatever you believe about the creation story, we were created to experience joy and happiness and abundance. And if you look at the world that we live in and you look at what was given to us, you can see how that is true, how that is what was meant for us. And so I want to challenge you today to think about, what would bring you more joy? What would bring you more happiness? And how can you shift this idea that life is so hard and life has to be hard? Then I want you to think about any other beliefs that come up for you whenever you start to think about this, right? Some of them might be things like, well, I have to put in X amount of work in order to get X amount of results, right? That's a really big one. Like, well, if you just work hard, then you can have everything you want. Or if you just put in 80 hours a week, then you can be wealthy, right? What if that's not true? And what if there is another way? And I want you to think about all of these kind of beliefs that come up for you that have been given to us by society and ask yourself, where did this belief come from? Is it really true? And have I seen the results of this in my life? And then I want you to ask yourself, if I follow this belief, is this belief going to lead me to more joy, more happiness, and more abundance? And the biggest question I want you to sit with is, why do I believe I can't have more joy, more happiness, and more abundance in my life? Journal on that and see what comes up for you, because there's going to be so much that comes up of this old programming that is keeping us stuck inside the lines and keeping us from wanting to make our own creations, color outside the lines, color the trees pink, and really invite and allow and receive more joy, abundance, and love in our lives. So spend some time with that, and see what comes up for you. And then I would love for you to take one action this week that brings you closer to more joy or more love or more abundance in your life. It can be a big action or a small action, but something that's going to lead you closer to that reality. Okay? Thank you so much for joining me today. If you loved this episode, I would love for you to continue on this journey with us. So hit subscribe. And until next time, this has been Krista reminding you that you are so powerful and you have permission to color outside the lines.